I'm a product guy. I've built technology products for the last 15 plus years, mostly in the mobile space. As a product guy, my job is basically to look at the market, try and figure out where there's opportunities to create new technologies, new companies, new solutions, and bring that to the market. About 2 years ago, I kind of stopped doing what I was doing in mobile and decided I wanted to change gears and do something different. So I started to look where I thought there were opportunities to innovate, to do new things that nobody was doing before. Something that was going to be growing for the next several years and an opportunity to do a lot of cool stuff. And what I came up with was privacy. I think privacy is a really big deal, and I don't mean just from a social or a policy or a governance perspective, although over the last 2 years, having worked on the issue, I've come to respect that those are very, very important things. I actually mean from a product perspective. I think that there needs to be a massive shift in the way we develop technology. We're thinking about privacy as a product and as a solution that people want and are using. Now, not everybody thinks that I'm right. A lot of people think I'm wrong, actually. In fact, last week I was doing a presentation at a startup conference in Vancouver. It was a brief presentation about my company to a panel of judges, mostly VCs and tech bloggers and folks like that. And I gave a synopsis of our new company that focuses on consumer privacy and security solutions, and got constructive feedback. And the constructive feedback from one VC in particular was that my idea sucked. So I asked for clarification. Clarification was that he didn't care about his privacy, and he didn't think anybody else did either anymore. That it was an antiquated concept that we left behind in the digital evolution. So my first response on stage, thinking about that in front of an audience of a few hundred people about a product that I've been working on for the last 2 years was, But I thought about it a little bit more, and he's got a point. Do we actually care about our online privacy, our privacy in general? There's a lot of evidence to suggest that we don't. We share the most intimate aspects of our lives willingly online constantly. I'm willing to bet that several people in here right now are tweeting about the fact that they're here, sending messages or posting pictures to Facebook. And we all do it all the time, so do we actually care? You know, my wife and I, we just had our firstborn. This is Lennox, he's actually sitting in the back over there. He was born about 4.5 months ago, and like any good parent now, we took lots of pictures. And we posted those pictures on Facebook, and more pictures, and more pictures, and more pictures, and more pictures. And we basically crammed pictures of our son down the social network pipe of all of our friends and family like you do on Facebook. I'm pretty sure that and sharing dog photos and vacation pictures is the primary use case for Facebook. And we did this willingly, and my mom, who's never had a Facebook account in her entire life, finally signed up for one just so she could see all these pictures. And I think she was partially a little bit mortified by that, by the fact that we were choosing to share pictures of her grandson online to seemingly the entire world. And now that I think of it, the fact that I'm using it in this presentation, she's probably not going to be too pleased about more using her as an example. But you get the point. Different people have different ideas of what private is. And if you think about Twitter, we share everything on Twitter, and it goes out to the world. It's not limited, really. You know, we tweet about waking up in the morning. We tweet about going to bed at night. We tweet about the things that we do in between. I apologize, I don't understand what the second half of this tweet actually means, so if it's offensive, I'm really sorry. But we tweet about what we have for lunch and what happens after we have lunch. So all of these incredibly important aspects of our lives, we share openly and willingly with the world. So do we actually care about privacy? I don't need to tell anybody here, I don't think I'm breaking any news here, that this is actually pretty big business. The guys at Google and Facebook, they do okay. Facebook recently went public. Their IPO happened a couple months ago. It didn't go exactly the way they wanted it, but there's still $42 billion market cap as of last week. That's a lot of money, $42 billion. To put that in perspective, General Motors' market cap is $32 billion. They make cars. They have production plants and guys and sheet metal and physical assets. My first car was from General Motors. It was a Pontiac Sunfire. I bought it many, many years ago, and it cost at the time around $15,000. At the time, it is a lot of money. It was a lot of money for me. I've never paid Facebook a penny, but the company that I paid $15,000 to is worth 25% less than the company that I've never paid a penny to. Why is that? Well, this is a big reason why. This is a great quote by Andrew Lewis. It says, if you're not paying for it, you're not the customer, you're the product. And there has been an evolution in business over the last 10 years, specifically in online business, of this whole concept of creating products and services that aren't designed to service you necessarily, but to get you in and get your information, and monetizing that information in a variety of different ways. And that is so profitable that today, companies that take pictures, or your pictures of your cars, your status updates about getting cars, are worth more than the companies that manufacture them and sell them to you. That's a pretty big shift. So again, the question is, do we care? Well, in some cases we do, in some cases we don't. I'm a fairly sophisticated guy online. I understand technology, I understand how these networks work. I get that Google is free and I don't have to pay to search the internet because they have advertising. And I kind of like that. I don't mind that. I even understand contextual advertising. I understand that I'm broken down based on my likes, my dislikes, what I do online, and ads are presented to me based on that. I know that if I am a left-handed plumber who's in Canada between the ages of 18 and 23, male who likes James Bond and is single, there are 16,360 other people like me on Facebook that could be advertised to. And as a left-handed plumber and all that other stuff, I kind of like the idea actually that I get targeted at. I personally don't mind. Some people do mind. Some people don't like that they're being targeted that precisely. Again, it's a matter of personal taste and a little bit of awareness. And I think awareness is key. Can I reasonably understand what is happening with my information and how my data is being used? And reasonable is a very important word in there. This is not reasonable. How many times have you guys clicked on something like this, one of these terms and condition clicky boxes? I did this presentation, I was working on it yesterday, I had to pull down some files, buy a couple assets, things like that. I must have clicked on 24 of them. And I do privacy stuff for a living, I don't think I read any one of them, to be honest with you. Now, over the last couple of years in doing research, I've become more aware and spent more time reading these things. And you'd be surprised some of the terms that are in here. I know I was. There are certain things that I just didn't know. They're in the terms and conditions, I've clicked them, I've accepted them, but I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware that Google not only advertises based on what I search, but the contents of my email and Gmail. This is a quote from their privacy policy. They're not hiding it, and I'm not even saying that this is wrong or somehow morally wrong. It's just what they do, and I just was not aware. I don't know if everybody else was. I wasn't aware that when I say something into Siri, that information is stored at Apple's data centers for an undetermined amount of time. It makes you think of some of the things you might have said in your iPhone, doesn't it? I just didn't know. I'm not saying that Apple tricked me. This is in the terms and conditions. I accepted it. I'm sure I clicked a little ticky box and said, I accept this. But I just didn't read it. I wasn't aware. I didn't know. And so that goes to the question of, do we care? You know, does this actually matter? Well, I don't want to pick on the little guys because there are a lot of websites out there, Apple and Google being the little guys, of course. If you think about just them and their terms and conditions, they're actually fairly well covered. A lot of media covers them. Every time they change a privacy policy, you can read about it. Somebody covers it. And if you really want to pay attention and follow the right tech blogs, you'll learn about the privacy issues. There are a lot of websites out there. All of these guys have terms and conditions. All of them have privacy policies. All of them have little ticky boxes that you accept. You could spend your entire life dedicated to nothing else but reading and accepting these things and fully understanding them, and you probably still wouldn't have a grasp of exactly how they're using your data. But the problem doesn't stop there. These are, for the most part, websites that behave well and you have a relationship with. You willingly accept terms and conditions. But what about the websites that don't? Even the websites that you don't sign into see a remarkable amount of data about who you are. Your browser is unique. The browser that you use to browse the internet is totally unique to you. Your IP address, combined with the resolution of your screen, combined with the plugins that you have with the browser, combined with your operating system, combined with the fonts that you have on your computer, all combined to make a digital fingerprint that allows anybody to uniquely identify you out of the millions and billions of people online. Combine that with cookie tracking and other techniques, it is easy for anybody to figure out what you're doing online and follow that. The CEO of Mozilla did a great TED Talk a couple months ago where he unveiled Collusion. Collusion's a plugin for Firefox, and it lets you track the trackers. It lets you see, when you go to a website, what information is being collected about you, and it graphically shows that interrelated to all the sites and how they're all connected. I spent about 2 hours doing some research online, not a full 2 hours of browsing. I was going back and forth between PowerPoint and other stuff. This is what my heat map looked like after 2 hours of browsing. Each one of those dots represents a bit of information that's been stored about me, and the lines connecting them represent the interconnection between all the different places I've been. This map combined together shows a very accurate portrayal of my online browsing activities. What I searched, where I went to, what I bought, the websites I went to, what I downloaded, where I was physically located, all that information is accessible without clicking a terms and condition box. So, do we care? Well, maybe we don't care. Maybe it's fine for these things to happen. In fact, a lot of this I know is ad tracking, and I don't necessarily care about ad tracking as a person, but that's a subjective thing. Other people might. Some of it comes down to context. Is the information that I'm willingly sharing, or in some cases unwillingly sharing, is it being used in a context that I find appropriate? I may be fine with a picture like this going to my immediate friends and family. Well, maybe not my family, but friends. You know, you're in college, whatnot, you have a little bit too much to drink, and somebody snaps a funny picture and it goes out to your close circle of friends. Well, that's fine. The context of that's not a picture of me, by the way, just to point that out. If it was, it wouldn't be in the presentation. But that might be fine with your immediate social circle, right? You probably share funny pictures, maybe not quite this degree, hopefully. But that's fine in that context. In this context, it's a problem. That's not a hypothetical scenario. I mean, maybe that particular picture is an example, but the reality is that over the last year and a half or so, there's been an emerging trend of your social information being used as a background check for colleges and job applications. Some companies in the US now require applicants to give up their username and passwords for their social network sites. The more sophisticated ones use some of the new companies that have come out that can do those background checks without your consent. Just like they would do a financial background check or a criminal background check, they do a social network background check. So the information that you've provided for one context, for one purpose, can be used for something totally different. Something that not even Facebook intended it to be used. So, do we care? Well, let's not even stop here. Let's go a little bit further. Let's talk about the internet service providers, the people that provide the pipe. This is a much simpler, more transparent economic relationship. You pay them, they provide you a service. There's no economic incentive for them to monetize your data you're already paying for. But there are different forces at work. There are other issues here. And there's some recent ones that are, I think, worthy of a discussion from a privacy perspective. In the US, in July actually, some of the internet service providers, actually most of the big internet service providers, signed an agreement with a couple of the big copyright holders, most notably the Movie Industry Association, the Record Industry Association. And that agreement is for something called graduated response copyright enforcement. So what that means is your internet service provider is essentially enforcing on behalf of copyright holders digital copyright laws. If you download a song or a movie and allegedly download one that is pirated, copyright protected, then you'll get a note from your internet service provider, and you'll get several of those, and they'll progressively get worse. In France, they tried to pass a similar law that on the third time you get that notice, you'd actually be blacklisted from the internet. The US example is really interesting, though, because it's not a law. It is an agreement between private entities. It is the organizations that represent the copyright holders and a group of ISPs, internet service providers, coming together to share your personal information on the express purpose of law enforcement. Now, I don't want to overstate this and over-dramatize it. The reality is there's not a lot of teeth there. They send you letters and they get progressively nastier. There's not a lot that happens. But it's still an interesting precedent, and I think it's something that we need to think about as we think about our digital lives and the information that's out there. Let's take this a step further and look into the future into how this same precedent could be used. We've talked a little bit about the information that Google and some of the websites can see about you, and there is a lot. But I'm going to tell a little story about something in the physical world. There's a retailer in the US, a very large retailer, who, like most retailers, does very sophisticated market research data. It's important to them to determine when purchase changes are occurring in your life. And having just had a child, I know that one of the biggest ones is having a child. You start buying stuff you never bought before, and you buy it in mass quantity. So capturing me as a customer, that change in my purchase behavior is really important. So what they started doing is they have an army of statisticians, really smart guys, and they looked at the purchase data of their customer, and they found with about 85% accuracy that they could determine when somebody became pregnant by the changes in their purchase patterns. Start buying things like cotton balls, the right type of vitamins, bags that were big enough to carry diapers, stretchier pants, things like that, and you painted a very accurate picture of somebody in early pregnancy. So they would, as they designed to do, send marketing materials out to people that they suspected of this with information, coupons, that sort of stuff, marketing materials. And one package landed on the doorstep of a teenage girl. And the father saw this note package with coupons for maternity clothes and prenatal vitamins addressed to his teenage daughter and didn't take to it too kindly. So he went to the store, talked to the store manager, and confronted him about it. He got a lot of apologies. The store manager had no clue how he got it. He went on his way. Well, you're probably guessing where this is going. A couple days later, the father went back and apologized because it turns out the store knew something that he didn't know. They actually discovered that his daughter was pregnant before he did. That's one retailer. Think about the information that is available for you online or about you online that we've covered today. And we haven't scratched the surface. We haven't talked about your mobile phone. We haven't talked about a number of different aspects. When all that information is cobbled together, it paints an incredibly accurate picture of our lives. Now, I'm not saying all this to freak you out, and I don't want everybody to run out of here and throw their phones away and turn off the internet and make tinfoil hats or whatever it is. That's not the point. The point is that we need to start thinking about this. The point is, we do care about our privacy, but sometimes we don't live in a world where the internet is an option anymore, and nor should we. The internet, as far as I'm concerned, is a fundamental human right. It connects us in ways that we've never been connected before. It allows us to do amazing things as a civilization. It is an extremely important tool, and we should not have to decide to opt in or opt out in order to protect our privacy. Apparently somebody wants to opt into my privacy right now. Sorry about that. We need more definition. We can't just simply say, I accept, and you can have all my information, and I get to participate in the digital world, or I decline, and I'm going to live in a cave and not have anything interesting you'd want to see. Anyways, those are not the two options. We need more. I think we need tools, we need services, we need to be able to do better to protect. The pendulum has swung pretty far. Over the last 10 years, billions and billions of dollars have been invested in technology and services to allow you to share your personal data broadly. I think now we need to swing the pendulum back and start investing, start building tools that make it as simple to control your data as it is to upload your picture or send that tweet. So thanks very much.